you ask President Putin to meet with you?
About what?
About Ukraine.
Yeah, of course I did. I talked to him about it. I said, when are we going to end this, Vladimir? I've known him for a long time now. I said, when are we going to end this bloodshed, this bloodbath? It's a bloodbath. And I do believe he wants to end it. It's a terrible war. It's a very hard to extradite themselves away from what's taking place over there. I said to him, we got to get going. And I did say also, if I thought that you couldn't do it, I'd step away, because what are you going to do? We don't have boots on the ground. We wouldn't have boots on the ground. But we do have a big stake, and the financial amount that was put up is just crazy.
President Trump speaking with Vladimir Putin on the phone yesterday for more than 2 hours, seeking to end the war with Ukraine. Trump also spoke with Ukraine's Zelensky before that Putin call and then after again, and then wrote on Truth Social, Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. Now, the Kremlin is saying this morning, quote, there are no deadlines in place right now. The New York Post, meanwhile, is reporting China's role in bankrolling Russia's war machine, calling for the U.S. to place secondary sanctions on Beijing. This is something we've been focused on as well, China being complicit here. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Keane, back with me. General, good to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in here. Give us your assessment of the call with Putin, President Trump, and what he said afterwards.
Well, I think we've gotten much of the same from Mr. Putin. I mean, he's got a couple of objectives in mind here. He knows full well that President Trump came into office wanting to end this war, stop the killing, as the president has emphasized many times. He uses the term bloodbath as an example of that, and he's impatient about it. He has a sense of urgency about it. So what Putin has done as a result of the phone call, he's rejected the temporary ceasefire once again. And why is that? Why does he reject that ceasefire? He does that, Maria, because he knows full well if he goes to a ceasefire, that stops the killing. And then the pressure is off the administration to make major concessions to him. And he wants major maximum concessions that make Ukraine so vulnerable, he'll eventually be able to take control of it. He's never given up on that aspiration. And then he also knows the president is impatient, so he drags out these negotiations and makes no concessions at any of these negotiations that have taken place, and I don't expect any of it going forward. And then he obviously talking to the president because he wants to avoid sanctions, and his attempt is to convince the president that he's interested in peace as much as the president is. Of course, his actions don't speak to that. And he's also trying to convince the president that what he wants is normalized relations with Russia, which would have significant economic benefit to both countries. That is a true statement. But it's pretty hard to have normalized relations with a criminal who's conducting genocide on a regular basis and attempting to take over a sovereign nation and threatening the other nations in Europe at the same time. So where are we? Well, I think we are where we are. Rejection of the ceasefire, more negotiations, more dragging this out. What did I think we should do? I think the Europeans, Senator Graham and others and advisors have got it right. It's time to slap it hard on Putin. Yes, that will affect the relationship. I grant you that. But we're making no progress maintaining this relationship at the expense of the people on that battlefield. The bloodbath is going on. And listen to this. Putin has rushed into the front lines. He has rushed thousands of additional troops, trained less than a month. The killing of his own troops have gone from the high 30,000 in 24 to the high 40,000 now, edging on 50,000. And he's increased the targeting of civilians. So he has increased the bloodbath. And Putin could care less about how many soldiers he are killed. We know that. We've observed them, because he's only trying to accomplish the objective, which is to control Ukraine. The president, on the other hand, he genuinely and sincerely wants to stop the killing. Putin could care less. He wants to take advantage of that feeling and that emotion the president has by increasing the bloodbath and the pressure on us.
Yeah, I mean, President Trump says that 5,000 soldiers and people are dying every week, 5,000. So the president is threading a needle here. He's using his economic levers to push for change, right? He's saying, okay, well, I won't put sanctions on Russia now because I know that eventually they want to do a trade deal. So he's talking about the potential for a peace deal and perhaps down the road a trade deal. Same thing with China, right? They're trying to act nice, play nice with this 90-day pause in the heavier tariffs while watching what China does. But the whole time, China is complicit. And we've talked about this a number of times. China is supporting Russia's war. China is supporting the bad guys over and over again. So what is the right tact from President Trump's standpoint in terms of using those economic levers?
I think it's time. I mean, it really is. I think the New York Post editorial yesterday had it right. Let's go for these sanctions once and for all and slap these countries who are assisting Russia. Go after Russia's oil, gas, and uranium industries, and that will have impact on China. And the pressure on China, given the pressure that's already there in terms of their own economic woes, as the editorial is trying to suggest, would likely put China placing pressure on Russia to stop this thing. Because of the impact it's going to have. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do know that it's time to put these economic levers on Russia. I know it will affect the relationship, and that's of concern to the president, but we have an impasse here. We're not making any progress, and Putin is increasing the killing because he believes that's the way he can get concessions out of the administration, because the administration wants to stop the killing.
Yeah, and that's our leverage. It's the economic levers. That's the U.S.'s leverage to actually affect change. And then there's Iran. The supreme leader there now voicing doubts over any nuclear talks with the United States, saying this: I don't think nuclear talks with the U.S. will bring results. I don't know. Iran reportedly reviewed proposals for a fifth round of peace talks. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says any deal between the U.S. and Iran must include an agreement not to enrich uranium, calling it, quote, a very clear red line. Of course, that's President Trump's line, no nuclear weapon. Iran's foreign minister dismissed it. He dismissed the administration's threats altogether against nuclear enrichment. He wrote on X, if the U.S. is interested in ensuring that Iran will not have nuclear weapons, a deal is within reach, and we are ready for a serious conversation. Enrichment in Iran, however, will continue with or without a deal, General. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, we both have red lines that seem impassable. And Iran loves these negotiations and tries to drag them out for their own favor. And I think what they know is that there's severe sanctions coming and likely an air attack as well. Israel's taken away their air defenses, but Iran is very desperately trying to rebuild some air defense capabilities that they have, knowing full well that it's likely that an airstrike is eventually coming. So that's where they are. And for the sake of our audience, on this enrichment deal, the reality is if Iran has the ability to enrich at any level, and that means they have to have centrifuges and the facilities to do that, they can do that at a secret site away from inspectors and have weapons-grade uranium in a matter of weeks. That is why our negotiating team has taken such a hard stand here. Any level of enrichment equals, under Iran's leadership, nuclear weaponization. Obviously, other countries, 23 of them, who are doing nuclear civil and power plants, and they have low-level enrichment, they're not proliferating to a weapon. But Iran is, and we know they want a weapon. It's indisputable that they want a weapon. We have all the evidence of it. They lie through their teeth here. So the negotiating team is absolutely doing the right thing here, drawing a red line. It has to be done, or they will get a weapon secretly if we permit that to happen. We know the facts here. We know they're cheaters and liars.
Sure. What a world. President Trump is taking it all on. Incredible. General, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, great talking to Maria, as always.
All right, General Jack Keane.